So the first one is mentioned, desire for women. Number 2, desire for children, especially sons. Number 3, heaps of stored up gold and silver, and then branded horses, cattle, which is cow, sheep, etc., and then tilled land, which is properties. Now let's discuss each one of them one by one. So number 1, desire for women. This is very important. Now some of you who are um, who are not that old enough may not be able to understand it, but many of you or some of you who are older or have reached the age of adolescence, you would realize that there is a desire for women. And by the way, we see this desire of women across all of us, like in the movies, in the dramas, they're showing some affection and all of these things, which is not right. This should not be shown, because there is a special relationship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created between a husband and a wife that needs to be private. It does not need to be public, because if it happens in public, then it leads to frustration for other people who are yet not married. That is the overall concept of Islam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying desire for women. And by the way, this is mentioned as first. So the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions is desire for women. How do we overcome this attraction and desire for women? By getting married the halal way, via performing nikah ceremony with females. Before that, if we fulfill this desire in any other sort of way which is not halal for us, then this is something that we have been asked to restrain from. So there is a desire for women, especially when you start to grow up. When you are growing up, you have the need for that special relationship with women. And there are certain physiological changes that you go through. So obviously your mind starts to think about it. There are some bodily changes that happen to you. Some of you may have started experiencing those. And I was also thinking that right now it is not a detailed topic, but inshallah in the future we will try to dedicate a topic, because again it is also linked to tahara, which means purity and purifying yourself as a result of those changes that happens. So I was thinking that probably we will have a separate topic related to it, because it is very, very important for tahara, for salah, for to perform the wudu the right way, and to take a shower and all of these things. So all of these are related topics. Inshallah, we'll cover them in a separate class. We will agree that in our WhatsApp group. But then coming back to the topic here, so there is a strong desire for women that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for all men. Linked to the same desire is number 2, which is desire for children, especially sons, right? Because when that beautiful relationship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the beautiful link that gets established between a husband and a wife, the result are offsprings and children. So this desire for having children and sons is also very strong, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this wish for having sons and children is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also built in men. And there are many fathers who are really, really proud, especially for their sons. They may not say you, by the way. I mean, I know you would be thinking, but my father, he just keeps on, saying you haven't done this, you haven't done that, all of that. That's part of the job. But whenever they're talking with their friends or some other people, they're really talking proudly. And it's not just for fathers, even both parents. So even mothers, they're really proud. And not just for sons, but for both daughters and sons. But here, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling out is, for men, there is a desire to have sons. And these sons, they really brag about, they talk proudly about, even though you may not feel it directly. I mean, at times, because you're mostly getting instructions. But I can tell you this, especially when they grow older and when their children are growing older, because you know what, whenever there is and obviously you can discuss this with your fathers, at times your fathers are trying to live their life via you. So for example, if there was an education that I wanted, I couldn't get, I would want my child to get. Or if there were cars that I was dreaming about, or there were things that I wanted as a kid myself, I would want to provide it to my sons or to my children. So there's a natural inclination of parents, similarly mothers for daughters, that they really want to provide for their children. So this is an amazing thing, which is why you need to have a very, very strong relationship with your fathers or with your parents, because really they are the ones who are taking care of you. I see a raised hand from Omar. Omar, go ahead. Omar?
Sir, in older times, I think I know why they wanted sons. Maybe because they want to make their legacy more bigger.
Yes, 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 you're right. So they wanted to make legacy bigger. And even in these days, some of the people in their hearts, they prefer sons over daughters because they feel like, when the son will grow up, he will do a job, he will earn for me, and he will all of this. But what we learned from the Holy Prophet, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and what we learned from Islam is that daughters are truly a blessing. There's a hadith of the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that if someone has three daughters or even two daughters and he really guides them well and he gives them the message of Islam and he raises them really well, then there is guaranteed reward of Jannah or heaven for them. Yeah, I mean, there has to be a balance between both children's. Both are creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, daughters as well as sons. But here, sons have been called out. Yes. Is there anything else? Okay, nothing. So let's move forward. So there is a desire. So the first desire was for women, which I told you. And then number two is desire for children, especially sons. Number third desire that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept in our hearts is heaps of stored up gold and silver. So piles. At that point in time, people used to really value gold and silver, and this was the wealth. So they used to keep it, and they used to keep it in heaps. It's not like a credit card and debit card today. Today, the heaps of stored up gold and silver means what? What do you guys think? How do we keep our money?
Money. I mean bank.
Bank. Bank is where we store our wealth, right? And bank is where, so this is a modern way of keeping the heap, the one that I'm showing you right now. There are so many ways to check your bank balance. So I found this graphic over the internet that says 6 ways to check your bank balance. You can check it online, you can check it in mobile app, you can call your bank, you can check it in the ATM, you can set up yourself alerts, and every time you do a transaction, and or you can go to the bank and ask the teller. The point is what? Because people, they know, banks know, people are obsessed with their heaps of wealth because there is a desire. I would just continue checking my bank balance. Oh wow, so it is so much. And then after an hour, I'll check, nice, so there is a desire. And by the way, there is also a need. So you may need to, you'll be saving, for example, for education or something. You guys are, mashallah, just starting your lives. When you will start your own households, you will see that there is a need to manage this money and your wealth and bank balance to take care of all the needs of your household. It can be expenses of the monthly expenses of your family, like food, rent, house, and all of these things, maintenance, car, and all of these things. Then education of your children, and then future planning or whatever. So there are multiple things that are surrounding us. There are lots of needs that money provides. However, we have been asked not to be obsessed with it. Anyway, so there's a third desire, which is of heaps of stored up gold and silver. Number four,
Sir, we should not be greedy.
Yes, we should not be greedy. You're right. And we'll come to this as well in the later ayahs on how we should be. Right now, we are just listing down the desires. Later on in the next ayahs, we will see how to control those desires. Anyways, number four, branded horses. This was the fourth thing that was mentioned, branded horses. What is the new form of branded horses these days? So these
Cars.
Cars. Excellent. So branded horses mean cars. Nice cars, huh? So cars.
Sir, fancy way of transport. Fancy way of transport.
Exactly, fancy way of transport. By the way, some of the cars, they even have horses as a symbol in between. This is, which car is this? Who will tell me?
Dodge.
No, not Dodge. It's a very close one to Dodge.
Lamborghini.
No,
Mustang.
Mustang. Yes, this is Ridwan. You had your hand raised. Mustang. Correct. So this is Mustang, and Mustang has a horse in the middle of it. So I don't know if the owners of Mustang.
Sir, even Ferrari and the Porsche.
And you are right. So the next one is the Ferrari. So even in the Ferrari, you see what the symbol is. What? The horse. And it's a rising up horse. So that's the logo. If you look at in the middle, at the bottom of the grill, if you guys can see, that's the horse, right? And by the way,
sir, horsepower.
Yes, I was coming there. So you already answered the question that I was about to ask. So how do we measure the power in cars, right? One of you
Horsepower.
answered the question. So how do we measure the power in cars? We don't say, we don't say,
Horsepower.
yeah, we don't say that, you know, this car has 5,000 chickens, or we don't say that this car has 2,000 power of rabbits, right? Or by the
So
way,
they say that they has horsepower.
exactly. So you guys are right. So basically, we measure the power of cars up till this day, horsepower. By the way, someone can argue that, you know, cheetahs are even faster. Um, or leopards, they're even faster. But why don't we use leopards and cheetahs as? And by the way,
We
these cars
cannot ride them. We cannot ride them.
exactly.
But
And they
we
can
use
eat us also.
Jaguars, like Jaguar, the brand.
Yeah, Jaguar is a car brand, right? You're right. So Jaguar is a car brand, then they use that. But the point is that you cannot ride them. That's an excellent answer. Because horses you use as means of transportation and you ride them. The other thing is, all of these car manufacturers, I don't know, I'm sure most of them are not Muslims, and especially those who are coming up with this. However, in the Quran, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he's talking about these desires that he's mentioning, this is for mankind. This also proves to us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our creator. He knows us. He has put these desires in our hearts. So regardless of you are a Muslim or you're a non-Muslim, when you talk, they are talking about horses, they are putting it in their symbols, and they're talking about the power of the car at 600 HP or whatever, and 500 and 400 and whatever. It's all about horsepower. So this also tells us that the book that we are reading is not an ordinary book. It is the book from our creator. Regardless of you are a Muslim or a non-Muslim or whatever, you are all following the book. So Quran mentions that there is desire of branded horses, and up to this day, this is true. So you cannot say, Quran is a book that was written for old times. Yes, they used to have horses at that. No, look at today's conversation. It's about 300 horses in one car or 400 horses, and you know, it's about horsepower in cars.
Plus,
So
horses are also very expensive now also.
exactly,
Because
very expensive. I agree. Yes. Who else was saying something?
me.
Go ahead.
Sir, you can also ride bulls. Like, look at Lamborghini.
Yes,
They
you're
have
right.
a bull.
The point, Ahmed, is yes, you can use different. They can show different powers and different symbols of power. They can show an electric flash. They can use whatever in their logos. I'm not saying that everybody is using horses in their logos. I was just trying to make a point that even the top cars, they are using this as a logo. And if you look at one measure, regardless of Lamborghini or whosoever, or everybody is using horsepower. And even if they were not using horsepower or if they were not using horse, the point here is what? The point is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us. He knows how we operate, how our operating system works. So he's listing down that these are the desires that I have created in you. I am sure all of you guys are successful, inshallah. I pray for your success in this world and hereafter. I'm sure you would love to own
Ameen.
nice cars. Ameen. I'm sure you would love to own nice cars as well. Because why? Because, and it is allowed, by the way, in Islam. So it is allowed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning it in here in the Quran. So it is a desire that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. So there is nothing to feel bad about it. Even the first one, attraction of women, we should not feel bad about it. But there is a way to conduct it. Having children, the desire or wish to have children, there's nothing bad about it. This is something mentioned. Branded horses, these days cars. There's nothing bad about owning a very nice car if you can afford it with halal means. Similarly, moving forward, number 5 was about cattle, which was in those
Sir,
times. Yes, go ahead.
I think Arabian horses were very famous and they were very premium horses because they were very fast and very strong. So around the world, people mostly preferred Arabian horses.
Yes, you're right. The Arabian horses are very famous, and it's like anything. So even today, horses are very expensive, and people ride them, like them, and all of this. And
Sir?
similar concept can be applied to cars as well. Yes, go ahead, Aziz.
So there was this person in my class. She really likes horses. She said that she wanted to buy one and she's saving up for one, and that one plus all the maintenance costs 6,000 reals, which is around $1,500.
Wow, wow, just the maintenance, huh? Imagine the price. Wow.
Also, sir,
No, all the maintenance included, but then she might get it for like a discount because like it's like a company maintained thing.
Interesting. And by the way, one more thing, by the way, guys, just one clarification. All of these things that are mentioned in the Quran are for the majority. There can be exceptions. There can be a person who can say, yes, you know, I have control over my desires and I just like reading books and all of this. So, but majority of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created majority of them. This is the list of desires that is there. Okay. So it's not like if somebody says, no, but I am really not into cars, I'm something else. It's fine. You can be into whatever. These days, there are lots of choices. But majority of men, these are the desires that they have. Quickly moving forward,
Sir?
number 5. Yeah, sorry.
there's a girl in my class, so she is also like a horse riding fan, and she got a black stallion for 20,000 Arab Emirates dirhams.
Wow, wow. And yes, you're right. So there can be females who are horse riders. So these things, by the way, a lot of girls love shopping, they love money, they love all of these things. They love nice driving fancy cars and all of this. So it's fine. It can be applicable both for men and women. But here we are trying to learn it in a certain context and something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that having love of these things is okay. However, you will see in the next ayahs on how we need to control them and how we need to live with them according to the guidance of the of Quran and Islam. So this is what we are trying to learn here. And by the way, yes, as I said, there can be exceptions. Someone may not like this or that, and girls may also like these. But this is coming specifically for men in these ayah. Anyways, moving forward quickly, the other thing that was mentioned was cattle. Cattle in those times, meaning, you know, so cattle, we all know it means like cows and sheep. In those times, they were used as assets. They would provide you milk, meat, all of these things. They were seen as assets. Even these days, I will introduce a term. I don't know if you guys know it or not. In finance terms, it is used a lot, which is called like a cash cow. So I don't know if you guys have heard this word. Cash cow basically means in finance that something, any asset or anything that you have purchased that can give you return in cash. So you invest in it and then it returns, give you cash, or it can be readily sold for cash. So something that can be readily sold. So, you know, there are some cars even that people talk about, this car, brand of car, it doesn't drop in value and this can turn into cash faster. Or it can be gold is also, you know, cash. So the concept of cash cow in finance, even, you know, so something, I mean, this is why we need to be appreciative of Quran, and which is why it will always stay current and, you know, it will always stay relevant to all the times, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already told us that there is a love of cattle, or there is a love of assets, there is a love of wealth that is inside our hearts, which is also used in modern day terms called as cash cow. And, you know, it is for any asset that can be turned into cash very fast. So still, because at that point in time, one of the key assets were cattle, were cows that people used to do trade, as well as, you know, used to use them as assets. The last point that was mentioned in the ayah was about tilled lands. Tilled land means lands used for agriculture. So this is like a property. It was a trade. So this is like a business for them. They would grow crops in it. They would grow food in it. And once it goes up, I mean, they would harvest it and everything. So these tilled lands, also the example of these are like modern day properties, like people invest in plots, people invest in studios or apartments or businesses and all of that. So if we were to sum up very quickly, these are the 6 points or 6 desires that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has built in our hearts. As men, number 1 was desire for women, then desire for children, especially sons, heaps of stored up gold and silver, modern day money or bank account, as you guys also said, branded horses, modern day cars, cattle, tilled lands. There's a question